Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matini with SA Commercial Realty, and today I'm bringing to you Mr. Sanchez, or Mauricio Sanchez, who is running for mayor in the city of San Antonio, and potentially he's going to be talking about improving the city and getting into the public life. Mr. Sanchez's background is in the financial industry, so I'll let him talk about himself. And Mr. Sanchez, pleasure to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Matini.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And please tell us a little bit about yourself and who is Mauricio Sanchez and so forth.
Of course. First of all, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me on the show. Truly appreciate all of your time and the opportunity. So, my name is Mauricio Sanchez. A lot of friends know me. Friends and family know me by Mal. It's just easier to pronounce. People have tried to call me Maurice, and I'm like, nope, it's not Maurice. Some say Maudy. I'm like, nope, it's not Maudy. It's just Mal or Mauricio. Okay. But I'm a lifelong San Antonian. My parents moved here in '89 when I was born. 3 weeks after I was born, they came here with my brother and I. The perspective was that they wanted to fulfill an opportunity for my brother and I to build a better life in the States, which is typically the immigrant story, right? It's the American dream and the opportunity of being in America.
Exactly.
So I've been here my entire life. Growing up, I didn't get to spend too much time with my dad because he was working. My dad worked like 4 or 5 jobs at a time, just trying to make everything work for us. And so a lot of my childhood I spent very close to my mom. And I grew up in Alamo Heights. I don't know if you're familiar with the 78209, but the small duplex home on the corner of Broadway and Austin Highway. And went to Howard, went to Cambridge Elementary, and then the flood of '98 hit us. I don't know if you've been here for that long, but the flood of '98 hit.
I remember that flood.
And it was bad. It was bad. So that flood hit when we were still inside of that home. And I still remember that day, rising waters. Within 2 minutes, I hear my parents screaming. I'm like, what's going on? I'm playing video games at the time. I walk out, and our house is basically on stilts, about to get washed away from the strong current. Next thing I know, there's a boat ready to save us. Things are happening. Very traumatic event. 98 happened. That scared the bejesus out of my family. We moved to the north side. I ended up graduating from Clark High School and in 2007. And shortly after that, I decided to attend the University of the Incarnate Word and study economics and finance. That program took me 5 years to complete, just because of financial aid and such. After I completed it, I had an opportunity to work with a private money management business here in Texas. So I did that for about 2.5, 3 years, and then I finally had the opportunity to go to New York. Which was kind of my lifelong dream whenever I got into the University of Incarnate Word. I said, one day I want to move to New York, work in finance, and understand what finance truly is, because finance in New York is completely different than finance here.
Guy.
So I did that, worked in New York for a bit. I was mentored by, I would say, one of the last I call him a great mentor because he had over 30 years of experience in the bond trading world, and he kind of adopted me into that whole mindset of understanding fundamentally how markets are affected, how capital markets work, and that. So that went through. I ended up testifying against that firm. It was, if you've ever seen Wolf of Wall Street, it's basically the story of that firm is that the firm went under, and then I came back to Texas just because it was a dark cloud over my head. I said I still want to be in finance, but my picture of finance was completely different. Right, my lifelong dream was to work, build a career in New York, but when that firm went under, it caused me to reassess. Kind of went into what's called the dark night of the soul, and reassess really what I wanted to do with my life. And so ultimately, I came back to Texas and I got into the independent wealth management space. So I've been.
What year was that?
This was 2015.
2015.
So since then to today, I've been in independent wealth management. I recently started my own firm. I've been utilizing this strategy. I manage money now using an economic cycle strategy. Basically, I look at the economic cycle and I position portfolios between 30 to 36 stocks, companies, based on that economic cycle. I've been using that strategy for about 10 years now. A year and a half ago or a year ago, I started my own firm, and I've been slowly kind of busy with that. And then the mayoral campaign came up, and now I'm here trucking to save our city.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for thinking about doing that.
Of course.
So how do you plan to integrate your life in the finance and your vast experience in the financial field into the city of San Antonio, putting this experience into becoming a mayor of San Antonio? How will that affect San Antonio?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. The reality is, look, when I decided to run, it's because I pinpointed a real issue within the city of San Antonio, and that issue, it all comes down. Yes, public safety is an issue. Roads are an issue. Our water system's an issue. There are many things that are what I would say a symptom of the real issue. The real issue is that we have an economic issue here, and that economic issue has probably about 5 different moving targets. One of them is that it's not economically diversified enough in San Antonio. We don't have enough industries that participate in high growth, but we have industries that are slower, lower growth that allow us to be a stable economy. Now, the trouble with that is that when periods like the pandemic hit, when periods like inflation hit, we still absorb all of that. So we're not benefiting from all of the booms of the U.S. economy, which we've been in this probably 16-year bull market before the year before last. And we didn't benefit entirely from that, right? This is why you see wages stagnate, and I'll go into that in a minute. But there's an economic issue here, and that's kind of the incentive of why I believe that I am the best fit for San Antonio. We've been voting, in my opinion, we've been voting more so with the idea that a politician can fix the issues that we are dealing with in the city. And the reality of it is that the economy has cycles that we have to adhere to, or we have to listen to and put them into policy when it comes to the political environment in San Antonio. And unless somebody is in tune with that economic cycle and the implications of what that means, it's going to be hard for someone to truly get us out of what we're in right now. I had no plans to be a politician before this. I didn't want to do this, to be very honest with you. I've tried to talk myself out of it. And I finally came to a realization that it had to be done. And I was willing to sacrifice 8 years of my career in investments and in finance to fix what's wrong with our city. And so here I am now, and that's really to infuse all of the knowledge that I've built in capital markets to really help us position our economy better, help families be able to make a livable wage, allow our fiscal system when it comes to the municipality to be better managed, and really to bring back. Right now, the public does not have any confidence in the municipality's government, and that's a true reality that we have to face as San Antonians. This is the reason that we have low voter turnout. This is a reason for many things, but there's no confidence in our city government, and the first step is to instill that confidence back through what's called radical transparency. We talked about Ray Dalio, implementation of radical transparency within our halls, City Hall. The halls of City Hall, and really try to bring back confidence from the public. I think that's step one. And then step two is we deal with a financial issue.
Right. So the city right now, there are too many projects, and some of them are controversial, such as the new Spurs arena that's being built. That will cost presumably $2 billion, but in reality, I've heard numbers such as $10 billion for the overall cost, because that can entail more stuff to be built around it, not just the arena itself. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I get asked that. I actually just answered a question for the San Antonio Report recently about this. The reality is that our economy is not equipped right now to sustain such a movement. Our our wages lag between 15 to 20% from every other Texas metropolitan city, although we're the second largest by population and the second largest by land mass. So we have to ask ourselves, first question is, why has that happened? That has happened predominantly because there's not enough competition working to compete for our workforce, human capital, and there's not enough competition working to compete for land, although we've seen land prices artificially elevate. Now we're starting to see the repercussions of what high interest rates do to that environment. You're in real estate. You understand very well what's happening now.
Yep.
That check of, let's say that tick of the checks and balances to where that is starting to slow down gives us a very, very real signal on why San Antonio is not ready for that type of movement. The infusion of conversation to say that reinvigorating a downtown is going to provide jobs is in fact not real. To me, that is a facade statement to put out to the public, because really the true measure of an economic growth period or an economic stability period is the fact that there is productivity within an economy. And right now, building out more restaurants, a better entertainment district, quite frankly, is not going to bring productivity back to the city. So if you ask me, I don't agree with it. We're not in a position right now to sustain it. I believe the private sector should play more of a role if they want to reinvigorate downtown. Then it's up to the private sector to do that. It should not be heavily reliant on the taxpayer bill. Debt obligations, I think, are already exceeded to a maximum. There's various reports, and I've brought them, and we could review those later, but Fitch, Moody's, S&P 500 produce credit reports in terms of our debt obligations. There are risks to those debt obligations that I think we are going to see, and they're going to become very real for us here in the next 6 months to a year.
Right. Well, also my other question that relates to very important subject in San Antonio, the airport. What do you think about the current airport, and what do you think of in terms of improvements?
Absolutely. Look, the current airport, to be very honest with you, we're a big city. It's not big enough, in my opinion. I think there should be more airlines within that airport. I don't think we have a presence from JetBlue. There's other airlines that are kind of fighting. I think Southwest Airlines is in a battle right now with American. They've just made a DC flight. There's all these things that are happening, I think, within our airport system, but the reality is that it's gridlocked, it's landlocked, it's not big enough to really, I think, play a bigger role in our city. And so I think we have to begin to entertain roundtable conversations on how we can expand. Whether if it's not there, then what other areas of San Antonio can we tap into to expand, being able to have more flights, more airline presence, and infuse truly what we benefit from, which is tourism. Infuse more tourism within the city. Those types of questions, I think, need to be brought to the table, and they're not being brought enough.
Right. And briefly, we have a growing homeless problem in San Antonio. What do you plan to do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So homelessness is a symptom of, typically it's mental health or addiction issues. Right now, we're not doing enough to infuse what I would say, look, the United States has very, very good programs in terms of, on the national scale, when it comes to mental health, addiction. There's organizations, nonprofits out there, there's even private corporations that have perspectives on how to deal with these things. We have to think about those things before we think about tackling homelessness, right? Because what we've seen is when you have something like Haven for Hope get built, which is good, right? It brings people, it could potentially bring people in away from being homeless and give them somewhere where they can actually get back on their feet. In essence, it's a good thing, but it's not working, right? Because they're not tackling the real issue here. There's a great organization. There's multiple great organizations, but one of them that I'm a big fan of is MAPS. It's the Multidisciplinary Association, I think, for Psychedelic Studies. I think it was, I forgot his name, started this organization back, I think, in the 60s. They're just starting to get FDA approval on what I would call plant medicine to get veterans better, to help them deal with whatever they are dealing with when it comes to their mental health or their addiction issue. Once we can implement programs from these well-known organizations that have done studies at Yale, Johns Hopkins, I mean, these are real organizations doing real work. If we could bring those organizations and partner with them in the city level, I think we could deal with that mental health and addiction issue. And once we begin to tackle those two issues, then we can begin to figure out how we deal with the homeless factor of it. Because the homeless factor is that they aren't being integrated back into the economic machine of San Antonio, right? They're out there, they're going through a period where they don't know how to get back on their feet. It's our responsibility as city government, local government, to fill that gap in and then bring in the right partnerships to help them get back into the economic machine, get them back on their feet. Hope
Excellent.
that makes sense.
Absolutely,
Okay.
does make sense. It's always don't give me the fish, teach me how to get the fish,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's always the key to successful
Reintegration.
solutions, or yes, reintegration. And my final question to you, since we talked off record before this, so I started this whole podcast interview with the potential mayors because I am an undecided voter myself. So why should I vote for you in the next election?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't want to knock any other candidates. Some of them are friends. But the reality is we have a real issue here, and I'm going to go back to it. The real issue is an economic issue in San Antonio. There's a reason our university students graduate and leave town. We had a conversation about your daughter potentially moving to Austin. There's a reason that all these things are happening from the college graduate level to the senior level. Seniors aren't able to keep up with rising costs, right? Social Security isn't enough. How do we fill those gaps in? And the reality is that the economic issue is constraining all that. Our young graduates, when they leave town, they take away from our economic machine. When companies don't entertain a conversation about moving to San Antonio to create jobs and create the infrastructure behind it, that takes away from the economic machine. There are multiple things that take away from the economic machine. When you take away from the economic machine, that is an ultimate to me, there will be a point where it be of no return. I think Detroit saw that, which Detroit is coming back up. I think San Francisco is starting to see a little bit of that. They might be able to come out of that. I think they have a new mayor recently. But we have an economic issue that is very real. No politician is going to be able to fix that. It's not a poli-sci problem. This is an economic and finance problem. There's a negotiation factor that sits behind that. Corporations do have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders. City government officials have a fiduciary duty to the public. And me coming in that position, implementing a policy of radical transparency. I've been a fiduciary since 2015. Implementing a policy of fiduciary responsibility within city government is, I think, what's going to set me apart. The problem is we don't know if enough people are listening to this message, which is a good thing that you do. You have the YouTube, you have interviews like this, because I think the public needs to really dig in to each candidate. My fear is that the public, they're not going to listen to enough messaging, and we're going to be stuck in the same round that we've been in the past 35 years that I've been alive. But talking to past mayors, this has been going on for 50 plus years. So if I ask why should you vote for me, it's because we have a true economic issue here. We have a fiduciary responsibility issue here, and I think I'm the strongest candidate when it comes to those ideologies implemented into our system here. It'll be too late. I'll say this. Look, this mayor election is very important for a reason. We are at a pivotal moment when it comes to technology. We are at a pivotal moment when it comes to world political power. We are in a position that 2025 for San Antonio is going to be make or break, in my opinion. And somebody has to understand how to build that infrastructure behind it.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for coming to our podcast, and hopefully next time we will see you, Mr. Sanchez. We will call you Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Matini. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Matini Time, for more content like this.